Hello, and thank you for listening to this episode of the Moore's October Rant series. Today's video, I'm going to be discussing a topic, and the title of it is going to be, Sometimes in the End, It Really Doesn't Matter. And basically what that's about is recently I've been beating myself up about past relationships I've had, primarily on the internet, which is basically where a lot of my relationships are, which I've talked about before. But beating myself up and wondering what went wrong and wondering why the relationship had to end, the friendship had to end, and what caused it to end, and beating myself up about it, wondering what I could have done differently to make it last longer and not end. You know, thinking about different aspects of it that caused it to end. And I was thinking that sometimes, things end, and regardless of what happened, sometimes it really doesn't matter how it ended. The fact is that it's over and it ended, and trying to figure out what went wrong and what you said, ultimately, it doesn't really matter because that person's gone. I've talked about this before in a recent episode not that long ago. But sometimes it doesn't really matter how you treat somebody. You could treat somebody with love, respect, and care, and they're still going to leave, I'm not trying to say that gives people the right to be mean and not be a nice person because people leave anyway. But you can treat someone with respect, love, and care, and they're still going to leave. So sometimes it doesn't really matter what happens. The fact is that they're gone. And I realized that thinking about it and trying to figure out what went wrong, it doesn't really matter because even if I do decipher it and figure out what went wrong, they're still gone. And a lot of the time when we have online friends and we stop talking to them for good, they're online, especially if they live in other states or sometimes other countries. We're probably never going to talk to them ever again. So trying to figure out what went wrong, sometimes you can. And sometimes it's good to problem solve that because maybe there's some mistakes that you made that you want to correct. So when you're friends with someone again in the future, you don't create the same mistakes over and over and over again. It's good to learn from your past relationships. It's good to learn from your past experiences. But sometimes, like I said, you do everything correct. You do everything right. You're the best version of yourself. And you are a very good person and a very good friend. Or maybe it's in a context of, talking to someone romantically and dating them and going to meet them eventually. But, sometimes it just ends. And it's really unhealthy, especially for me, to sit there and just try to decipher it and trying to figure out what I could have done to make it last longer or any of that. It's good to dwell sometimes and think in a way where you're trying to, like I said, trying to learn and not repeat things, especially if you're trying to be better, if you did some things wrong. Obviously, you want to self-improve, but there comes a point, even when you're doing that you have to move on. That's a big problem that I have, especially recently, is that some of my past is coming back to haunt me. And especially as I get older and older and older, I'm looking back at my past now, and it's affecting me in a way that I never did before. But I think that people usually have more of a conscience when they get older, or consciousness as they get older. And sometimes things bother you as you get older. Sometimes when you're young, even some young people have problems with it. Everyone's different, but sometimes when you get older, things really start to come back to haunt you and bother you, and you think about what you could have done and what you should have said. And, it's not healthy to sit there and dwell on past situations and think about why it went wrong and stuff like that, because you're just going to drive yourself crazy. Because even if, like I said, even if you have the answers, there's nothing that you can do about it. The relationship ended. The friendship ended. The situation is over. But, learning is one thing, but beating yourself up, that's a totally other thing. And you have to learn the difference between, learning something and moving on, and just keep on, some people just keep on beating themselves up, and that's really been affecting me recently, and it doesn't do anything good for me. I made an episode recently about this woman that I talked to from the United States. She was from another part of the United States, and she was married, and we had a really good connection, and it came to the point where she was very, very guilty because she wasn't telling her husband about me, and she didn't want to, be in that situation where she had to hide me from her husband, and she was afraid that eventually it was going to affect her marriage and affect her child's life, because what happens if we found out and overreacted and it ruined her life, where it ended in a divorce or, affecting her child's life. So she really needed to quit, the friendship with me. And, it came to the point where eventually, like I said, I contacted her again, and she told me that she told her husband that she was talking to other guys and had friends. And then she was talking about how he was open to doing the swingers thing, how swingers will hook up with other couples and stuff like that. So she eventually opened up to him and they were fine with it. So I was thinking maybe, I've talked about this before in another episode, maybe, she was fine with it the entire time, Maybe she really didn't care and she tried to I love these rants because you can mess up words. Maybe she tried to come up with an excuse to not talk to me anymore, and that was the most convenient excuse that made sense to try to get away from the situation, But at some point, it doesn't really matter because I can't prove whether or not she was being serious or not. I don't know her intentions. The fact is that it ended. And me sitting here wondering what I could have done to make it last longer, it's not going to do anything because the fact is that she's gone. Regardless if the situation with her husband was getting in the way of our friendship and our relationship or not, it doesn't matter because she's gone. So it could have affected it. It could have not affected it. Even if it did, she'd still be gone. If it didn't, she's still gone. So I got to stop worrying about why things end and just focus on the fact that it's ended, because I always try, I'm always trying to improve. I'm always trying to be better, and being better leads to you thinking about a lot of things and trying to be better, but you can obsess. And I do have OCD, so it's really difficult for me to, not obsess about stuff. But, I really hope that woman is living her best life. I know that she has a child and she's married, and, she was really lonely during the day, and that's what really made us connect, is that she had a lot of time to talk to me. But, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh my God, she left and I'm never going to find anyone again. Everyone always leaves me and I'm lonely and no one really cares. What's the point of putting in effort? I'm not trying to say that, but I don't want to be that. I don't want that to ever come to my mind where I'm acting in that way. But, it's about balance. You really have to have balance in this world when you're talking about certain topics and thinking about certain things. And balance is very important because not self-importance. Yeah, a lot of people do have that, but self-improvement is very important, but you have to balance it. And thinking about the past, thinking about what went wrong, like I said, it's okay, but you have to have a balance with it. And me thinking about the woman that I had the friendship with and overplaying in my head over and over and over and over again about why it went wrong and what I could have done to make it better and perhaps talk longer, that's not going to do anything. That's not going to fix the situation because she was going to do that eventually anyway. She knew that talking to me was probably not the best idea, especially in her situation. She knows that being online and being in group chats and meeting people online, it was not going to go well. She knows, she was guilty. If you're guilty about something, it's wrong. And it's kind of my fault for being friends with someone like that, knowing that she's not supposed to be talking to me, which is pretty funny because she's a grown adult and she should be able to talk to whoever she wants to. But the dynamics of every relationship are different because I know some couples that said that they have no problem with it and some do. So, I'm not trying to make this whole video about, dynamics in relationships. It's kind of going off topic a little bit, but, that's it for now. Thank you for listening to the Moore's October Rant series. I'll make more videos soon. Thank you so much for listening.